on, guys? So today in the Phantom Cave YouTube channel, we're going to be talking about a latest in, well, my kind of special content. So we are having a happy Halloween special today, and to celebrate Halloween, we are reviewing the latest Phantom comic that came out last week, and today we are reviewing the Collector's Replica Series number 25. So I hope you enjoy this sort of review, and let's get into it. So it has, counting down the original issues from the year 1958, and it includes issue numbers number 127, 126, and 125. Now, coming next issue is, which will actually, by the time I record this, or by the time I actually do all of the editing, this actual comic, I think it may be a reprint, will be coming out in the 5th of November, which is basically next week. So, we have stories in here including The Valley of No Return, Valley of No Return, that's in number 127. In number 126, we have two stories, The Chain and The Jungle King. And in number 125, we have part 2 of the 1940 to 1941 daily story, Dinah Avatrix Lost, with art by Ray Moore. And one thing I'd like to point out to you right now is basically few have been, over the last probably couple of collector issues, they have been putting a replica sort of wording up in the top right hand corner of obviously the cover. And the reason for that is, as we all know, Nick Moles in the Phantom community put this on Facebook, and he reminded me of this, so this is why I'm saying it. So they put the replica little wording up there because there's some people out there that they could possibly sell these replicas as the originals and get loads of money for it. So, and his other point was that even though the replica is up in the top right corner, it can get cut off. That is what we're dealing with here, and we'll now get into the comic, and there's some fairly useful information from Nick Moles on the Facebook group, one of the Facebook groups. I actually read that post, and this story is obviously the Valley of No Return, and I haven't actually read this story. Most of these stories in this actual comic, I have not read, and so it was very enjoyable to be reading something that I haven't even read for my entire collecting sort of years. So in this comic, we have two obviously European sort of people. They come to investigate, try and get specimens of local sort of native plants and all that sort of stuff. Then her brother actually basically puts them in a dire situation, and we have the brother and the sister going into the Valley of No Return, and that Valley of No Return is because there's a tribe next to the Valley of No Return, and they have been making sure that the valley is a feared place, and so there's sort of like a misty sort of thing going on in the air. obviously it takes for a little bit because she's wearing one of those face masks. Ironically, we're in the pandemic, so she's wearing a face mask. He's not, so he is not immune to it. So they then all go to sleep, and then there is these local natives trying to plunder them. They then try. The Phantom then has to solve the sister and brother problem. He then rescues all of the natives and the brother and sister that was basically asleep. Well, the sister wasn't asleep, but the other ones were. Hero and Devil basically keep them on the other side of the edge of the cliff, so obviously they don't get to go to sleep again. What else we see? The Phantom actually basically saves everyone. He then goes off to the tribe in the next couple pages. Goes off to the tribe and wants to know what this sort of... He finds out what this sort of powder is that's making everyone go to sleep, and including the animals. So the chief doesn't really want any of it. So then the Phantom basically... the tribe, he actually says... This is actual first in the comic. He actually says that you're not eating meat, you're becoming a vegetarian. And as we all know, a lot of things what the Phantom actually says is sometimes can be controversial and sometimes is good and bad in some ways. But you got to remember that these comics were either produced back in the 1940s and in the 1950s. So you got to be aware of that sort of stuff. So we have number 126, and in this sort of comic back in those days, it featured two actual stories, two actual 17-page long stories. And in the first one we have is The Chain, which is the Phantom actually is... it's unsurprising that Lonigo and Wambezi are basically fighting again. And the Phantom nearly basically gives up against making them be a piece of some sort of treaty. So it's quite remarkable that the Phantom actually... He actually basically didn't go much on it. So then he then calls a guy, one of the oldest pygmies in the tribe, and he relays a story about the current Phantom's mother and father. So, and obviously the Phantom sort of doesn't want any of it because he's obviously in a bad state of mind. And then, well, his actual father had to go through a lot to actually get the current Phantom's mother. And obviously after that they then married, and obviously you can tell then they obviously had the current Phantom, and we into another story. So we have basically a Hero is basically the main sort of feature in this story. And we actually have... So Hero he goes on a little adventure, and this sort of story is titled Jungle King. So back in, I think, the 1950s or 1940s, they ran a story called Jungle King, and I hadn't even read it. And so it was quite interesting, I think. And so the Phantom goes looking for the Hero, and Hero is then sold to one of the Maharajas in the mountains. And Hero, because he's the fastest horse in the sort of world, he then wins a few races. These two chaps They basically sell him off to the highest bidder, and then, which is the Maharaja. Can't say that word because can't pronounce it. And the Phantom actually has to rescue Hero, and no one can basically ride him unless it's Toma from the Coral, and or the Phantom basically. And so the Hero then goes back into a shroud of mystery, and Jungle King disappears forever. In the third actual comic we have today, number 125, we have a story called Diana Avatrix Lost. And so this is part 2 of an epic story which has just been probably, it's probably, I'm guessing, I'm just going to say this. So the art, yes, I know it's Ray Moore, and I know it's early, but, oh god, the last couple panels of artwork that we actually see in this comic, I'm not going to be trying to be controversial, but I think I will be, but it's not great. I know I'm being controversial, and I know it's in the early stages of the Phantom, but really, I'll show you basically. So in the part 2, obviously Diana gets probably kidnapped, and the Phantom has to come and save her from a couple of sort of bad guys. The army gets called in. The natives, obviously from a tribe nearby, help. The Phantom thinks Diana is dead. The Phantom then realizes that Devil's trying to point something out to him, and basically Devil helps the Phantom find Diana. And then one of the army lieutenants called Pete helps the Phantom locate Diana, and Phantom goes into a burning land. Diana escapes, and then the Phantom goes back to get Mr. obviously Big, and the Phantom then wins, and the Big then gets put in army jail, and then the army think they can here we are. So that's so here we are. This is sort of where I'm getting at the art. Look, I'm not trying to be controversial, but look at the art. It's just not up to my standard. It's not up to my standard, I don't think. But at least if you're trying to reprint their stories, you got to give them some bit of quality in what they're actually producing. So we have another couple panels here somewhere. I know it's early, but yeah, those ones were just not great in my eye. But then the Phantom, obviously, they try and give him a medal. Obviously, he won't get a medal. He doesn't deserve it. He does, but he thinks, nah, I don't need a medal. I just do my own job. If you would like to subscribe to the Phantom Cave YouTube channel, you can do so down below. Click that subscribe button down below, and you receive the most insightful, the most informative content on the Phantom forever, and obviously my interviews with famous artists, famous sort of people that get into the Phantom. They have a good go at it, and as always, keep Phantom Caving. We'll see you later.